Hi everybody, happy Halloween. Hey, it's Linda Anderson here from Linda Lou Creates. Thanks for joining me. And tonight I wanted to share these two cards that I made, highlighting the backgrounds that I created. So lots of fun there. And did you notice? No pattern paper. What? I know, crazy. As much as I love pattern paper. So anyway, I want to get started with sharing this card. All right. Both cards make use of the Nature's Harvest bundle. That's the stamp set. And here is the dies. There is a couple more than two on the back here. So I've had that set for a while, that bundle, and haven't used it. So I thought this was going to be a perfect time to do it. So here we go. This card, my card base, is my favorite top folding. So that's 11 by 4 1/4. I have then a piece of, sorry, this is the thick Very Vanilla. So forgot to tell you that. So and then I have a piece of Very Vanilla that is 3 3/4 by 5. Soft suede that is just 1/8 of an inch bigger, 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So this is the piece that I'm going to be doing my background on. So let me get some paper here, just some scrap paper. Goodness gracious, I'm just got stuff all over the place, don't I? So anyway, I decided just to use, believe it or not, just ink to paper. And I am just using some spots, some Stampin' Spots here. So I went with what I had, Daffodil Delight, Pear Pizzazz, Soft Suede. So I kind of started with the one in the middle, so I'm going to make that be my soft suede. So it doesn't have to go straight across. I kind of thought it was kind of fun to kind of go a little wonky with it. You know, just go back and forth over it till you get the amount of coverage that you want. I'm fine with that. I can always go back. Now I had the Pear Pizzazz. I will just go across on that. See, I like that streaked look. I think on my sample card, I went a little too heavy here. I love the streaked look, so I'm going to stick with that. And now this is the Daffodil Delight. All right. Now let me just turn it, and I'm going to repeat this here. I already have my soft suede in the middle, so I'm going to go with, again, the Pear Pizzazz, Daffodil Delight, and I'm good with that. Let me just do a little bit more of the yellow here and here. There we go. Now this one I have 5 stripes on my sample card. Let me bring it back in. I have 6. Whatever makes you happy. So this works for me. I am perfectly fine with it the way it is. So let me just get the lids back on because I'm known for dropping things in ink pads, and even these little ones I would drop it in. Speaking of dropping, I have things falling on the floor left and right here, so let me get all that. Now here I can go ahead and adhere this down to my card base. So let's go ahead, or not my card base, sorry, to my soft suede layer. So let's hurry up and do that. All right. And then I'm going to show you what I did with my, which seems to be a go-to for me lately. Do you ever get into sort of a groove of things and you just keep doing it? That's what I'm doing with this next technique. So I have just a scrap piece of Very Vanilla. I am going to pull in my Stamparatus because I already have the flower adhered to it. If I could find my ink, I would do it. Here we go. Here's my ink pad. So I'm going to go ahead and get my Stamparatus and pop in my, pop it in and let me do it this way because I kind of have a mark as to where my flower is. So let me just go ahead. So let's see. Yep, that'll work. That will work. So I am going to make sure I'm in screen first of all. Second of all, let me just slip something under here to give a little support. I have Cajun Craze. I thought I would make this sort of a fall tone, fall color of this card. So I'm going to go ahead, stamp this. I was just doing some multiples of this flower image, and that's why it's on my Stamparatus. So that's the only reason. You could definitely put it on an acrylic block, so no fear there. So, okay, let me just set that off to the side, and this is the thing that I seem to be hooked on doing, a blender pen. I just stamped it in some ink, the Cajun Craze. I am going to smear it, or I guess blend it's a better word. Smearing just doesn't sound good. But I'm just going to start just sort of moving that color around a little bit. It's already dry, but it's still kind of sitting up on top of that cardstock, and I'm able to move it around, color with it. And this one's perfect because of all of these lines that are on this image. So don't feel like you have to color this. Sometimes I shy away from sets that I think that, oh, that needs to be colored. I don't want that one. Because honestly, I don't like to color. I don't think I'm a very good colorer either. I don't know if that's a word or not, but little techniques like this, though, I don't mind doing this. I can certainly smear ink around. So that's all I'm doing here is smearing. I guess the technical term is blending the ink around, and just like that. And notice I'm not coloring it all in. I'm leaving some of it still the vanilla color. I recommend doing it like stamping and getting right on it with the blender pen, because if it's allowed to seep down into that cardstock too much, then you're not going to get it to blend and move around like that. So from here, I just placed the die over it, die cut it out, and there's my main image right there. So let me bring this back in. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my card base. I can move this out of the way for the moment. It's coming back. The other card I'm going to be using it for. So for my other sort of what I'm hooked on technique, so to speak. So, all right. Let me go ahead and adhere this down. Now I've already put dimensionals on the back here. Yeah, you remember, I do love my dimensionals. So let me go ahead and get this going. Tonight is Halloween. I wanted to see if you had people coming to your place. Did you pass out candy? Did you take kids out trick-or-treating? Tell me all about it. We had actually more kids this year than we have had in a very long time. So it was crazy how many kids there were. So almost ran out of candy. Notice I said almost, because I always come in right before I think I'm going to run out, because heaven forbid that I don't get the leftovers. So actually, it was time. So all right, let me go ahead and just set this about right there. Okay. Again, with that Harvest die set and the stamp set, the Nature's Harvest, I stamped the sentiment, die cut it out. This is also Cajun Craze. Now, I want to point out sort of the crazy way I have my dimensionals here. And it is so when I put it across the flower stem image, rather, I'm avoiding it. because this is already popped up. I don't want to put dimensionals on this as well. It'll just then be a little wonky. So let me go ahead and sort of measure where I want this. How about right there? And let's see. Not bad, not bad. So here it's straight across the flowers, but it's popped up where it hits on the our homemade background here. So I have some gilded gems. I'm going to get to them and put a few of those down. Let's start here, and I'll put one here. Let me grab a couple. Two more, one more, and there we go. All right, card number 1, and all we did is direct to paper, I think is what it's called, when you actually put your ink pad directly down to the cardstock. Did it in a, you know, fancy little way of going across in stripes, created our own background that way. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to surprise you with this next background. It is not my favorite thing to do. It is watercoloring. So I am not a big watercoloring person. I think because I lack the control of it. It goes where it wants to go, and that's that. So I don't know. That's my thing. I like to have the control, I guess. But did you notice here in the background, very light? That's stenciling, and that is what I love to do. So I thought I would put some of what I love to do with something that I'm like, I'm not that crazy about it. So this is actually the watercolor paper that Stampin' Up! Sells. It comes in a 5x7 sheet, and I just cut it in half. So I have 5 by 3.5. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the technique that I did, and I then use the stitched rectangle dies in order to die cut that out. So let me go ahead and bring back some paper. Let me move this out of the way. I will bring it back. There is a point where things get a little messy, so I'm going to really move things out of the way. Now, again, I am using my spots, and if I could find them, I would use them. I had used the nothing like losing your stuff when you're on a live. So let me see here. On the sample, it is Granny Apple Green. Let me bring back the sample. Granny Apple Green and Coastal Cabana. So what I'm going to do, just let me grab my full ink pads then. I will do that. So Coastal Cabana and Granny Apple Green. You know, as soon as I hit the, you know, to end this live, I will find all of my supplies. My desk is a mess, I know, but goodness gracious, I would have thought I had that right here. Okay, so I will also have then an acrylic block. I have my acrylic block. I have my water brush. There's water in the tube, and I like this one. I really do. The sort of like a fan sort of effect. I'm going to use this. I'm also going to use my spritzer. All right. So I start with my acrylic block. This is going to be what I'm going to apply my ink to. So let's go ahead, and I'm still looking for it. I just apply my ink directly to the block. Okay, so that's the Granny Apple Green. Then I have my Coastal Cabana. You can do it at an angle. You can do it any direction that you want. So now the thing that I like to do when I do this, I've done it before where I've just put water, then sprayed water on my acrylic block, stamped it onto the watercolor paper. What I find I like better is to have it a little wetter. Now, so that's where my water brush comes in. I like to make my watercolor paper wet. So I'm just giving it a squeeze and then just making my watercolor paper. I'm just getting some water on there. Okay, that's wet. Now I'm also going to spray my acrylic block. All right. I like the idea of having the 2 layers of wet. All right. So now I'm going to stamp this down and watch it fill in. If there's spots that are still a little wet, just push a little harder. I like to let it sit here for a little bit. Really let that watercolor paper absorb that moisture and that water into it. That's kind of how you get it to work, is letting that water seep right into it. Now, something else, a very important tool to always have is a paper towel. When I lift this up, there's going to be a puddle that did not get absorbed, and I want to make sure I'm able to kind of catch it with the paper towel. So I would like to lift it up, and there's my puddle that I was telling you about. Let me just quick wipe my block off so that I don't get that messed up anywhere. So you could let this just go. Sometimes, because it's so dark, I like to sop that up. All right. I like to sort of let this do its own thing. It's going to anyway, and that's kind of why I don't care for watercolor. But next thing you're going to want to do is have your heat tool ready. Now, I have the one by Stampin' Up, and it has 2 settings on it. One that it blows really hard, gets really hot, and that's the one that I use all the time for heat embossing. This actually has like 2 stages of how much it puts out of heat. I like to just go with level 1, so it's not super hot. It's not really loud and forceful on the air, but I do like to let this, I do like to dry it this way. You can let it sit overnight. If there's spots that you think need more or less color, you can certainly play around with it. You can add, this is kind of what's fun, just I'm going to spritz using the spritzer again. I can get it wet again, put my paper towel over it, and I look at the color that I'm lifting up. If you want to, you can move things around some more this way. You can play with it. See how I'm kind of lifting up even more? I can move it around, get that water that has the different colors kind of bleed into the other. Like these little veiny things here. That's kind of fun too. So that you can also do. So play with it. That's what it's all about, is just playing. So my apologies, I just bumped the camera. So sorry about that. So now I'm not going to sit here and dry this completely. I actually did. And I am going to show you then the next step that I did with it. I have one that I've already die cut out. It's already dry, but you're going to see what I have on it. I have these splatters. So one thing to notice, no 2 samples are ever going to be alike. So be aware of that. Here I feel like it pulled some yellow out of there. And I got yellows going on there also. But check out the black spots. How in the heck did that happen? So see how this, I mean, that's a cool background too. There's the yellows there too. Oh yeah. So anyway, here we go. Back to that acrylic block again. I'm going to actually use some black Memento ink. I'm going to just get some ink onto there. I am going to spritz it. Let me just move that out of the way. Just want to get some water on here. Now, you can use any sort of paintbrush that you have. I actually have some that I had kept whenever my kids were young and we did watercoloring. You know, this is just a Crayola one. I'm going to load up my brush and I'm going to just hit my finger with it. And this is where you want to make sure that things are out of the way. I don't want to get black splatters everywhere just on my sample here. All right. And, you know, load it up. You can just flick it if you want. Get different little moves like that. All kinds of cool things. Now, I would recommend having it be dry first, because you can see how it's sort of pooling out there, because my blue is still kind of damp. So make sure you dry it real good before doing this step. But let me do a real quick clean up here. And like I said, I'm going to bring back in then my sample. So, or bring back in what I've already done. So I did the same thing, what I just showed you. Die cut it out using the rectangular stitched rectangle dies. This one measures like 3 inches across by about 4 3/8. To bring out the black, then I put a layer of black cardstock 1/8 of an inch bigger. Yep, you got it. It's 3 1/8 by 4 1/2. Adhere those two together. One thing I would recommend, watercolor paper. This was wet. Don't be afraid to use adhesive on this. I just made sure that I just put a lot of my liquid glue on there, so be sure you do that as well. And then I have it loaded up with dimensionals. So here comes the rest of my stuff for this card. First is the card base. It is the top folding. And when I initially just put this down, I thought it just needed something else. So that's where I brought in one of the decorative mats or a stencil. And I am going to add some of that. So I'm going to bring this in. I want to line it up on here as best you can. It's going to be, a lot of it's going to be hidden. So don't feel like you have to be overly precise and do any measuring or anything like that. So I will just pop it there. And then I like to just put some, I use Post-it note tape on the back side of it just to hold it down. So this is my card base. So I just have it for the a little bit. So I have the Stampin' Spot. I actually made this one myself. It's Pool Party. I used the refill on Stampin' Up! Sells empty spot containers. I have a blending brush. So I'm going to go ahead, ink that up. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start laying down some ink. Notice how I will load it up. Very often I would tap it off just so I don't have one big dark blob of ink. But because my image, my background that I made is going to be covering up the center, I'm okay with just going straight down onto the card base without tapping off any of the ink. So, all right. So I'm just going to make sure I have a little bit all over. I really have kind of focused my inking kind of in the corners. And let's take a peek. See if I like it. I do. I do. So there it is. Let me take that off. I will get that. Just wipe it off with some water. Let me remove my Post-it tape. I should probably wipe my fingers off. With all this inking I'm doing, I'm really getting myself all sorts of ink on me. So let me just wipe my fingers real quick. So now my card base has something on it, and I love it that way. So let's bring back now the background that we created. So I'm going to get off all of my papers for my dimensionals, and in about 5 minutes, once I get all of these ready, we can put this down to the card base, and then I'll show you the next thing I did. So here we go. All right. Now, I used some of the brushed cardstock that's in the holiday catalog. I love this metallic brushed cardstock. I cut out 2 of these images from the Harvest dies. And now I'm going to just kind of see how the stems are kind of separated. I want to kind of bring them together. All right. So I'm going to do that. Just kind of squish them together. Get a glue dot on them. And then I'm going to actually, you might not get them all in with one glue dot. You might have to pop a second one on there. So let me do that, which is what happened here. I only got the one, so let me get it kind of squished in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to kind of squish it together because I want it to be more like a bouquet, so to speak, because I'm also going to then put my ribbon there. So I want the stems to be kind of all tied together. Get that illusion that it is. Move it around as you want, get the height that you want, and there's the sprigs. Now it's going to go down. It's going to extend above and below, as well as a little bit off to the side here. So let me go ahead and get a couple dabs of glue on the back here so that I can get it. These just reminded me of like wheatgrass. So let me go ahead and get some more down here. And, oops, a little bit here. Yeah. Now, I'm going to pop this down. And that same, I'll tell you what, that acrylic block is going to get a workout today. I will use it. I might even pop a couple more down on there to help hold that in place. Let me put this off to the side just to show you then 2 more things that are in. Let me bring back the sample. So the sentiment, I used that same die cut that I did with my first card. However, I needed a sympathy card, so I thought this was perfect for that. So I just went with your In My Thoughts, and it's in this stamp set, Encircled in Friendship. And then I can do on the inside my thinking of you, you know, the sympathy sentiments then that I want in there. I also have a linen thread in which I have doubled it up, tied a bow. All right. So I'm trying to chatter and hope that this has now adhered. Same thing that I did before. I put my dimensionals kind of on either side of where it's going to overlap with the stems here. And don't forget too, it does adhere out over your this rectangle. So I don't have any dimensionals here on the end either. So sometimes just, you know, strategic placement of your adhesive is necessary. So here we go. And let me move this just a smidge. There we go. All right. I have my double linen bow here, and I have a glue dot on the back that'll kind of roll it up on itself, and I'm going to pop it right here, giving you, like I said, that impression that it's tying these the stems of this image here. I'm calling it wheat. I honestly don't know what it is, but so let me just trim these a little better, and there we go. This one has a few extra steps, doing the watercoloring, the splattering, some stenciling, but so here's these two cards, and then the other one that was more of a direct to paper type of background that we created here. So anyway, these are my two cards that I wanted to share with you tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I can't believe tomorrow is the 1st of November already. Isn't that crazy? I will be on doing a Facebook Live again sometime this week, just sharing my November class to go. It's going to be a Christmas stamp a stack. What does that mean? It means I have 5 different cards designed, and you will get everything in, as far as cardstock, paper, ribbon, things like that, to make 3 of each. So right away you're going to have then 15 Christmas cards made and in your stash. It makes use of the gingerbread and peppermint bundle that's in the holiday catalog. That paper I just adore, and same with the ribbon. So be ready to see that, and I'll fill you in with more details about that later. So anyway, hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. As always, I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great week. Bye now.